A day of free public programming was held in October for Indiana writers, readers, and authors in partnership with the Indianapolis Public Library and the Eugene and Marilyn Glick Indiana Authors Award, with special presentations by the Indiana Writers Center. The 2013 Indy Author Fair gave participants the opportunity to meet over 40 authors, purchase books and have them signed, and to learn about such topics as writing a book proposal, getting published, marketing, and self-publishing.
Right now I'm writing a book for Indiana University Press. It's a biography of a former Indiana writer and political speechwriter named John Bartlow Martin. He grew up here in Indianapolis and then went on to Chicago, became a freelance writer, writing for the big slick magazines of the 1950s like Life and Look and Saturday Evening Post in particular. And then he went on to become a notable Democratic speechwriter for a variety of presidential candidates, including both of Adlai Stevenson's campaigns, John F. Kennedy's successful campaign in 1960, and then became an ambassador to the Dominican Republic. And so I'm looking at his entire life from his days in Indiana all the way up until his death.
I do middle grade to young adult fiction, so sort of in the fantasy, also superhero genre, action-packed adventure, humor, that kind of thing. Sidekicked is the book that just came out, and it's about a superhero sidekick who has pretty lame powers. He can hear and see and smell things better than anyone else in the world, but he's powerless to do anything to stop them. And when I was writing the book, I was asking myself, what would it be like from the other point of view, from the more evil point of view? So I'm working on a book now called Minion, which is about a boy who has a sort of father figure who actually turns out to be a criminal mastermind, right? And so the boy has to sort of embrace this world that his father figure has created for him, and he becomes this minion. So he struggles with many of the same issues that the superhero sidekick does, but from the other perspective. So it's kind of a mirror novel in a lot of ways. And that comes out next summer.
I am a young adult writer. I have great active imagination, which gets caught up in my brain sometimes and I have to let it out. So I have written my first book, The Fingerprint of Jack, about time travel, this kid that gets involved with a time traveling group. And so he goes back to 1880s London and gets to see Jack the Ripper. I'm working on the editing process of book 2 called From Cleo to Edgar, where he moves on to other adventures, and I'm also working on book 3, which will complete the trilogy.
I'm a former high school teacher, and so I love working with kids, and I write young adult fiction. I have 2 books. That Summer Sanctuary came out in 2010. It was an Indiana Best Book finalist and is about Matthew, who's a 12-year-old preacher's kid who goes to his local library to do a science project, but meets a homeless high school kid and convinces her to live secretly in his church for the summer. And then this book that just came out, Maybe I Will, in 2013, is really more for high school students because it deals with a mature subject matter. It deals with sexual assault, but it makes the point that it's not about sex. And it makes that point because the main character is never identified as male or female. So you read the whole book and you project whether Sandy is male or female, and it turns out to be a very different book for a lot of people, depending upon whether they see Sandy as male or female. And the truth is that sexual assault is not about sex. I was a prosecuting attorney for 10 years and worked in those types of cases, and I still work as a child forensic interviewer at our local child advocacy center in Fort Wayne. And so these books are really written to help people talk about difficult subjects and get kids the opportunity to understand some things in a more comfortable way than to talk about themselves or their friends or things that have happened in the news. You can talk about characters in fiction, and that's the type of fiction that I write.
I'm the project coordinator for Painting Indiana 3, Heritage of Place. It's a joint venture between the Indiana Plein Air Painters Association and Indiana Landmarks. Rachel Berenson Perry wrote our text, a 40,000-word essay on the history of plein air painting in Indiana. Indiana has a very rich history, going back to the Hoosier Group with T.C. Steele and them. The paintings that are in the book are currently on exhibition at Indiana Landmarks and will be there through November, and then the exhibition will travel to Lafayette, then Fort Wayne, Richmond, Evansville, and finish up at the Minnetrista Cultural Center in Muncie, Indiana, a year from now. So all said, we started the project in 2009 and will end at the end of 2014.
Several years ago, I think 4 years ago, I won the first Indiana Authors Award, and that was a very much a landmark event in my life. It meant an awful lot to me, not just that I won it, but that the Glicks had appreciated literature so much that they wanted to encourage it and reward it that way. I've always thought that was such a wonderful idea.
The Indy Author Fair is held annually in conjunction with the Eugene and Marilyn Glick Indiana Authors Award Dinner, a signature event for the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. Be sure to check out next year's event to be scheduled during the fall. You can find more information at indianaauthorsaward.org.